She almost turned her wheelchair around at the cafe in trance, her fingers tightening on the cold metal rims as laughter and soft Christmas music spilled out onto the street, warm and cruel at the same time. Inside, everything looked like a picture she no longer belonged in: golden lights, couples leaning close, hands wrapped around cups, lives moving forward without hesitation. For a moment, she felt like a mistake that had rolled into the wrong scene. If you believe every story hides a lesson, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Stories, because sometimes, the smallest moments carry the biggest truths. She hadn't chosen this night. Her sister had insisted, gently but firmly, saying it was time, saying she deserved something normal again. But normal had left her months ago, on a rain-slick road with flashing headlights and a silence that never quite stopped ringing in her ears. Since then, every invitation felt like pressure, every new face like a quiet judgment. And now here she was, on a Christmas blind date she didn't want, in a body that didn't feel like hers, bracing herself for the familiar look of sympathy disguised as politeness. He was already there when she rolled in, sitting at a small wooden table with 2 untouched cups of coffee between them, his posture slightly tense, like he was rehearsing patience. He looked up, and for a split second, something crossed his face, something honest, unfiltered. Not pity, not surprise, just recalibration, as if he was quickly adjusting the picture in his head to match reality. It disarmed her more than anything else. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and roasted beans, and behind them, a Christmas tree shimmered with soft lights and handmade ornaments. Somewhere, a child laughed. Somewhere, a couple argued in hushed tones. Life continued in all its messy, ordinary ways, while she sat across from a stranger, wondering how long it would take before the evening politely fell apart. But it didn't. Time moved strangely at that table. Not fast, not slow, just steady, like a quiet heartbeat. He didn't rush to fill silence with forced charm, and he didn't avoid looking at her as if she might break under attention. There was a calmness to him, the kind that felt earned, not performed. Occasionally, his eyes drifted toward the small phone lying beside his cup, lighting up with messages he didn't check immediately, as if something, or someone, waited for him beyond this moment. She noticed the faint exhaustion in his face, the kind that sleep doesn't fix. The kind that comes from responsibility. Outside, snow began to fall in slow, delicate spirals, dusting the windows like a quiet blessing. Inside, the world softened. And then, without warning, the night shifted. A small child, no older than 5, ran into the cafe, cheeks flushed from the cold, clutching a crumpled drawing in mittened hands. His eyes searched the room until they landed on the man across from her, and suddenly, everything made sense. The phone, the tired eyes, the quiet patience. The boy rushed over, breathless and glowing, holding up his drawing like it was the most important thing in the world. In that moment, she expected the man to apologize, to explain, to create distance between his 2 lives, the date and the fatherhood. That's what people usually did. They separated things, kept imperfections hidden until it was safe. But he didn't. He simply turned, fully present, kneeling beside the child without hesitation, his attention shifting with a kind of devotion that didn't ask for permission. He studied the drawing like it was a masterpiece, his face softening in a way that couldn't be faked. Then, gently, he brought the child closer, not away from her, but into the space they shared. There was no awkwardness in him, no apology, no attempt to edit his reality. Just truth. And something inside her, something that had been locked tight since that night on the road, shifted. For months, she had felt like her life had been divided into before and after, into what was lost and what could never return. She had believed that people would only ever see the after version of her, the incomplete one, the one defined by absence. But sitting there, watching this man exist so openly in his own complicated, imperfect world, she realized something she hadn't allowed herself to consider. Maybe life didn't need to be edited to be worthy. Maybe broken didn't mean finished. The boy eventually settled, his small hand resting trustingly on his father's arm, and the 3 of them shared the table, not as strangers forced together by circumstance, but as people quietly occupying the same moment. The Christmas lights flickered softly behind them, and for the first time that evening, she didn't feel out of place. She felt included, seen, not as someone to be fixed or pitied, but as someone simply there. The snow outside thickened, wrapping the world in silence, and inside, the cafe seemed to glow a little warmer. The date she had dreaded no longer felt like an obligation. It felt like something else entirely, something unplanned, unpolished, but real. And real, she realized, was better than perfect. If this story is touching something inside you, take a moment to like, share, and tell us what you're feeling, because stories like this are meant to be felt, not just heard. Before we reach the end, write in the comments, have you ever had a moment that quietly changed how you see life? Later, as she left the cafe, the cold air kissed her face, sharp and alive. She paused for a second, looking back through the window at the man and his child, their heads bent together over something small and important. The world hadn't magically fixed itself. Her past was still there. Her reality hadn't changed, but something inside her had. And as she turned forward again, moving slowly into the falling snow, she realized that for the first time in a long while, she wasn't just remembering what she had lost. She was beginning, quietly, to imagine what might still be possible.